Hey everyone, Gnogot here. So yesterday I made a tweet about the new Mulcharmy Fuwalos and how it impacts the game, how we play it, and how that maybe can be a good thing. And as you will now have to think about how many draws you want to give your opponent while still making a board that's good enough. And for that tweet I got a few comments, especially about like, this is not enough, you have to skip your turn basically, and are these boards enough? And for that I thought maybe I'll go over some of the meta decks today and show you what small combos they can do against Fuwalos, how many draws they get, and how you can survive after getting Fuwa-LOSed. Now, a disclaimer for here is obviously we'll have to see in practice how realistic it is that these small boards can survive. Some decks look better than others. You will see, for especially Yubel is heavily impacted by it, which for me I think that's a good thing because Yubel boards are very, very oppressive. Yeah, and another disclaimer is also that the one thing I don't like about the thing I like the least about Fuwalos is the implications it has for Tenpai, because against Tenpai, most of the times, most boards are not enough. So that dynamic is kind of toxic there. But yeah, we'll have to see in practice. For now, all we can do is try to think about our lines and how to attack the new issue that Fuwalos presents. So let's hop into some combos. Alright, so here you see a deck manager. I prepared some decks that are kind of meta adjacent, and there's also the Mimigul stuff from last video. So these I will not present today, these are just from last video, but I wanted to talk about Yubel, Centurion, Chimera, Fire King, Memento, and Voiceless Voice. Now, Snake Eyes Azamina is not in here because I'm not too familiar with the combos, but for my first impression, it looks like that deck is also heavily impacted by Fuwalos, because the Snake Eyes engine inherently specials from the deck, the Azamina engine specials from the extra deck, and so on. But again, that deck ends on very strong boards, similar to Yubel, and having that deck weakened by Fuwalos is not necessarily a bad thing. So I prepared some replays here, and let's start off with my favorite deck, Chimera. So this is just what you do with Gazelle and Patchwork, just like the standard, like you get a fusion off and you do from there. There are obviously more combos and you can see from there they have more options, but like there's just an example of what you can do with minimal draws. So they Fuwalos you go Patchwork, you normal summon the Gazelle, add another fusion, and then you go Chimera fusion to go into the Chimera King of the Phantom Beast, giving your opponent their first draw of Fuwalos. Now this will trigger some effects, and your Gazelle will add you Quaddle in this case. You can also go and add Apprentice, discard a card, Special Apprentice, add Quaddle then. If you want another body for Guardian Chimera, that is possible. But obviously this is just like two cards, you will have more cards in hand here. We'll then add back the Chimera Fusion, use Quaddle to go into Mirror Sword Knight, and use the polymerization to fuse our Chimera and the Mirror Sword Knight into Baphomet, which will give our opponent the second draw off of Fuwalos. The Baphomet will then send the Diabells, and you'll set the Chimera Fusion and you will pass. So what happens here is you gave your opponent two draws. They went -1 due to Fuwalos, so it's +1 for them. And then in the end phase, your opponent has to discard a card. So basically, it's a zero-sum game for the Fuwalos. Your opponent will start their turn normally with 6 cards. But what interactions you have set up? Because this time you didn't access your Fiendsmith engine. Fiendsmith engine, by the way, really, really bad into Fuwalos. This, like, it summons so much from the deck, from the extra deck, which again, I think weakening the Fiendsmith engine is a good thing. But what do we end up here? We have the Baphomet on the field, which enables both the Mirror Sword Knight and the Quaddle. So we have a targeting protection, we have a monster negate on the field. We also have the Chimera King of the Phantom Beast, which means we can immediately in our opponent's turn resummon the Diabells, which then also prevents your opponent from using quick spells. It can pop spells and traps, and it's generally hard to deal with. Now, What else do we have? We have a Chimera fusion, which means we can go into Guardian Chimera, and if we have the illusion, the apprentice, Nightmare Apprentice here, we could like pop 2, draw 1, obviously after we used these two effects, or even before, because the Baphomet can then get back the banished Chimera. Or once you have used the Mirror Sword Knight, it gets banished, and then if you get the Baphomet in the grave, you banish it, get back the Mirror Sword Knight, and can then tribute that for Baphomet to get follow-up, or you leave it on the field, because this, as an illusion monster, cannot be destroyed by battle. So once your opponent has chewed through your interactions here, they are unlikely to kill you here, and you still have, like, you have the Guardian Chimera draws, you have 4 cards left in hand, and you have a very good chance of making a pushback here. And also you will add back the Chimera fusion in your turn if you still have a Chimera left in grave. And once your opponent is over the battle phase and they didn't kill you, you can then tribute your Mirror Sword Knight to get your follow-up. So generally, all in all, you basically go neutralize the Fuwalos, and you still end on a lot of things like pops and negates and floodgate of your choice. You obviously can also do King Tiger Wangu, Dark Barrier Statue, whatever you want, but like this is just a standard thing here. All right, that's it for the Chimera replay. Now let's go to the next one. Let's look at Yubel. So for Yubel, there's one combo that's okay against Fuwalos, which is the Dark Beckoning Beast combo. So you will normal summon Beckoning Beast, go opening, normal summon the second one, go into Yama, giving them their first draw. The Yama will get the Aurora, which you can then discard for the opening of the Spirit Gates to get back the Dark Beckoning Beast, triggering the Sharvara, and then you have the Dark Beckoning Beast and the Yama, and link these off into Rage. Now, you will give your opponent 2 draws here, and on Rage, into SP, into another SP disrupt. So this is 3 disruptions, plus the pop here, which after you popped, the Yama will trigger, get back the Rage, plus the Rage as its effect after getting popped will add back a Dark Beckoning Beast or a Shavara for follow-up. So basically 4 disruptions, you give your opponent 2 cards, which is fine, but it's obviously not amazing. Now, but like obviously you have like, this was 1 card, so if you have 4 hand traps, you're good, right? If you have Spirit of Yubel, you have Battle Protection. Opening of the Spirit Gates can be follow-up. So that's like the good ending for Yubel. Now let's check Lotus, however. Now Lotus, I haven't been able to find a good combo. So one route you can go is like the issue with Lotus is because you have to use Lotus, you special from deck, that's already a draw. And then because you have to go through the Yubel engine, you go Nightmare Pain, pop the Spirit of Yubel, and because you need the extra body, this will trigger and get the other Yubel from the deck. Now, if you, instead of Lotus, opened with Nightmare Throne, what you can do is you skip on this effect, and you just go Nightmare Throne, because Nightmare Throne, before its specials, it adds to your hand, so actually it doesn't give your opponent a draw. So you would just go Spirit of Yubel, pop this, add this, and then get the Terror Incarnate to the hand on the field. You skip 1 draw for your opponent, which is a big deal here. So after that, you special summon the Grave Squirmer. So just keep in mind we have +2 for your opponent, 2 draws. Special this, Link, this is the 3rd draw. You can make IP or Rabbit. I just went with Rabbit here. Also, like, IP is not that common. And then you shuffle these for a Phantom of Yubel, giving your opponent the 4th draw, and then you can use the Squirmer to get back the Lotus. So you have the Rabbit, Spell Trap, pop, you have the Azurune for negate, you have the for summon negate, you have the Phantom of Yubel for monster negate, and you have some Samsara Lotus, which is fine, especially since you get through the Phantom of Yubel, you will get your Spirit of Yubel in the grave, and have a normal Yubel, which they can't out by battle. Silhouette Rabbit also can't be outed by battle, but they can obviously run into it to do damage. But all in all, for 4 draws, this is not very impressive. Now, there is another thing you can do, which is go into a Yama line. So again, do this. This is the first draw. Get the Nightmare Pain, pop, Skirmer, second draw, Skirmer summon, link these to the Yama, third. You go Grave Skirmer, pop. You can actually here resummon the Yubel from the grave, which doesn't give the, so you can trigger this effect without giving your opponent a draw, which is relevant in case you have any other 0/0, because I just run this through first. So this comes out, you go here, and that is draw number 4. And then you can also go Phantom of Yubel. The Yubel that we had on the field wasn't of use to us, really, so we just shuffled it back. But if we have another 0/0, we can leave this Yubel on the field and just use the Lotus to summon back, and then you have the Lotus effect as well. But this is 5 draws, I think. It's 2 from the Yubel engine, Yama, Rage, and this. And then you have like 4 disruptions here that we had before with the Beckoning Beast engine, plus the Phantom of Yubel and Nightmare Pain. But yeah, compared to the Beckoning Beast engine, like the Beckoning Beast engine was 2 draws for 4 disrupts. This just adds 1 more disrupt, but like 3 more draws. All right, so you can see how heavily impacted Yubel is. By the way, if you have a better line for Yubel to play against Fuwalos, let me know in the comments. Maybe like link a replay or anything, or just write it down for me. But so far, I didn't see anything relevant. Obviously, another choice for Yubel would just be, okay, if you have only the Yubel engine access and you don't have that many hand traps, you just go full all out, let your opponent draw, and then you end on your Omni negates and just hope that your opponent can't get through anyway because of once per turn effects, for example. Now, another deck that I thought was really interesting into next format, into Fuwalos, was Fire King. Now, we get the new Ulcanix in the next set. So I have 2 combos for Fire King, one with Wanted, one with Ulcanix. But let's just check the Ulcanix. So this is Ulcanix plus any fire. You use the effect. Here, obviously, if you pop the Ulcanix, you can special from the deck. But A, we are under Fuwalos, and B, this is just an example for any fire monster. So you pop any fire monster, you add Ponix, and then you can special Ponix via its own effect. Now, fun fact, the Ulcanix obviously can adjust its level to the monster that you added. So if you are against Tenpai, and you know that they send you first, you get Fuwalos, you can just do this, and you have 2 level 1s. You can just make Fuko here, and then they can't really kill you. So that's interesting. And if you have Thrust, you can also go with something like Harpy's Featherstorm, which is funny. But let's just go through the normal line. So Ponix, Sanctuary, pop. Note that we still haven't given our opponent a draw yet. So yeah, we get the Garunix, specials itself, and in this case we send a Barong. If you don't play Barong, there's probably other lines where you just go the Arvada and resummon something, and they have another body. But I just wanted to show off this combo because I think it's pretty cool. So you then use the Garunix and the Ulcanix to go into a Link 2. That can be IP, that can be Silhouette Rabbit. It doesn't matter, both is good. IP is a bit more dependent on your Fire King engine actually like doing something, because as of right now you don't have a body on field, whereas Silhouette Rabbit just works on its own. But you went into IP, and then you can actually pass. Now, what does that mean? You gave your opponent 1 draw, so basically their Fuwalos was an Upstart Goblin, which is whatever, and you'll hopefully have more non-engine here, hand traps that you can use. And in the standby phase, you will have Ponix go back to the hand, and Barong adding you the Kirin. Now, let's say your opponent summons a monster, it goes into the main phase. At any point, you can Kirin, pop the Ponix in hand to special summon itself, which will then trigger the Garunix Engrave, get back, and Garunix Engrave sends Kirin, which then triggers, summons back a fire monster, in this case Ponix. You can also get back Ulcanix if you want that, but The Ponix can actually add card. Also you get the pop via the Kirin summon effect. So you have a pop here already. You get follow-up for next turn, and you also now have the IP into SP, so that's one banish. You have another banish via the SP, and if your opponent special summons a monster, you have these 2 8s plus the Fire King Sanctuary, so you can go into the Garunix Eternity, which will then nuke your opponent's board. Yeah, so also it has a revive effect if it gets popped, so if this survives and you pop it with Island, you get Garunix back, you keep on playing, and yeah. So this is a lot of disruption. You only give your opponent 1 draw, so really, really strong into Fuwalos. And you can see how Fuwalos, the gameplay is more favored now against mid-rangey decks like Fire King, who can like afford to end on not so little because they just play in your opponent's turn. All right. So that is the Ulcanix combo. Now, for the wanted combo, because obviously you don't always have Ulcanix, and that was like a 1.5 card combo. Let's see what wanted does, or Diabellstar for that matter. So you wanted Diabellstar, you get the simple spoils, that is draw number 1. You get Snake Eye Ash, which then adds you Ponix because you already used the sinful spoils, so you don't really want to go Poplar. If you play Azamina stuff, you obviously can play this line differently, but in this case, this is just Snake Eyes, Fire King, so small Snake Eyes engine and mostly Fire King. So you still have your normal summon, so you can go normal summon Ponix, add the field spell, and basically this is the same line as before. You pop the Ponix now, you have an extra body, like, be it Ash, be it Ulcanix, it doesn't matter. You send the Barong, go into IP, and then you get an extra draw off of the wanted. So this is 2 draws for your opponent, but you get an extra draw off of the wanted here if you have it, and you basically end on the same. So again, during your opponent's turn, you will get the Ponix back, you will get the Barong effect, you can go pop with Kirin, pop the card in your hand with Kirin, pop something on your opponent's field with Kirin. Garunix is on field, you have the Xyz, you get the follow-up, and so on and so forth. So Fire King, really, really good into Fuwalos. Now, we have left over Centurion and Memento. Centurion is pretty easy. Centurion basically does the same thing as like before. If you look at the standard Centurion combo, and all the starters end on the same summons. As you can see, I haven't triggered Fuwalos yet, so this is the first draw they get. You set the trap, get this back, and you get this one back. And then during your opponent's turn, you can do your Centurion plays. You get these out of the back row, you synchro into Crimson Dragon, which goes into Cosmic Blazer Dragon, and you can use the trap to banish something, so you end on Omni Negate, plus the banish, plus you have this body on the field. You can also, instead of the Omni, go into, like, just standard Centurion stuff, you just go into Red Supernova Dragon, and then the rest of your hand is hopefully hand traps, or Bestials, something like that. So doesn't really care for Fuwalos. Now, one thing to mention is, obviously, if your opponent knows that you are on Centurion, they could keep the Fuwalos for their turn because they still don't control any cards. And they would get 2 draws, one of the Cosmic Blazer, one of the Crimson Dragon summon. But then they just don't Fuwalos you in your first turn, right? And usually, game 1, if they don't know you're on Centurion, they just drop the Fuwalos, if they main deck it, obviously. And yeah. Or also, like, if they play hand trap build, they don't really want to Fuwalos in their turn. It's only, like, really useful if they're on breakers, so most of the time you don't really care about this. Now, the decks, if you saw them, there was also Voiceless Voice. Now, I didn't want to go through a Voiceless Voice combo because it's pretty simple. You should know how a Voiceless Voice combo looks like, and if you don't go Dynamondo turn 1, which you shouldn't do anyway, from what I've heard from other Voiceless Voice players, then your opponent basically just hand rips themselves. So the last one is a Memento combo. Now this is a combo that I got from my friend Inox. He has been working on Memento for since it's been released, first wave, and this is one of the combos that he sent me. There's other combos, there are other variations of the combo, but just so you get a general idea how much Memento can actually play. So this is just Anguish. Now note that if you have Darkblade instead, you obviously have to give your opponent an extra dot with the Darkblade, which is not the best, but I think the list he runs more Anguish than Darkblades because this just plays better into Fuwalos. So you do standard Memento stuff. You add the Tatsu, use the effect, send some monsters. Anguish gets back Mace, Mace gets the fusion, you activate the fusion, and you give your opponent the first draw, which is the Creation King. And Creation King will send 3 cards, the new Akihiron, the Gaddick, and another Creation King. Now, this will trigger the Gaddick, summon itself back, add back Sleepy, and then you add back the field spell via the Creation King in the grave, activate it, and now you can go Sleepy Fuse into Twin Dragon, giving your opponent the second draw. Twin Dragon can add Combined Creation and Memento Mace. Then that'll trigger the Akiron and the Twin Dragon, so you will get back the Sleepy. You can also trigger the Memento Mictlan, but we can use that later as well. So we get the Sleepy and the Akiron summons itself back, and then you can go Memento Fusion, pop the Akiron, add a Bone Party, which will then trigger the Akiron, add back the Memento Fusion, plus the Mictlan will revive something as well, the Gaddick. Now, you can go Bone Party, pop the Gaddick, add a Goblin, any name really, because then you will shuffle back 5 monsters, including the monster you added, the Goblin in this case, to summon the Combined Creation from hand. And you will have the Fusion on the end phase also. You will get back the Bone Party. So you will have the Creation King, Sleepy, and Combined Creation, Fusion, Mace in hand. So if you look at this, in your opponent's turn, you can Bone Party, pop the Sleepy, get Anguish. Anguish triggers, Sleepy triggers. Sleepy sends the Gaddick, Anguish sends Goblin. Goblin can be discarded for targeting protection. Gaddick gets itself back to summon and add back the Sleepy. Now, during your opponent's turn, you can summon the Sleepy, and on summon Fuse, you can go targeting protection, you can steal a monster, you have a Mementolan Fusion, which can make Guardian Chimera. You have the summon via Combined Creation, which once you go Sleepy into Twin Dragon, you can actually add something like a Darkblade, because then the creation can, for example, summon the Darkblade, and Darkblade actually on summon can pop a spell and trap, so that could be relevant against Tenpai or Azamina. And lastly, you have the Creation King, which can pop cards on, like pop Memento cards on your field and the same amount of cards on your opponent's field. And as you can see, we are filled with Memento cards. Plus, we haven't triggered Mictlan yet. Now, one thing I wanted to note is okay, it doesn't work. This combo is this deck list doesn't run the Horned Dragon. This is the list of Inox, and he said that he is still unsure whether he wants to run the extra card because itself doesn't do anything. But if you run this, you can obviously in this combo summon this, and if this is destroyed, you can pop 2 more cards of your opponent's field. So all in all, the combo gave your opponent 2 draws, 3 if you start with Darkblade, and you saw how many disruptions you can end up with. So Memento and Fire King, in my opinion, profit heavily from Fuwalos. Centurion also, but Centurion is, from power level perspective, a bit weaker than these two. Chimera can do decently well with it. The issue with Chimera is that Chimera usually doesn't run hand traps, so you don't have that backup plan if you and on a smaller board, you still back it up by hand traps. You have to rely on your engine. And lastly, something like Yubel or Snake Eyes Asamina, in my opinion, looks like heavily hit, whereas something like Voiceless Voice doesn't care at all. So, hope you find this video useful. Hope these lines were good. If you have any improvements for the lines, if you have a better line for that, if you have any deck that you think profits from Fuwalos, or any meta deck that has a combo that you want to show off, there's the comment section down below. Thank you very much. And yeah, if anything else fails with Fuwalos, you can always play stun. So see you next time.